Hello friends, welcome to my channel. On the last video I explained about the water methanol injection, what is it and why we need the methanol injection for a higher horsepower car. So today on this part 2 video I will be explaining how to install methanol injection kit, and what you see in the screen is a typical injection kit. That's a Snow Performance Stage 2 with a controller. On all the setups you see, we can see it one by one. So normally any methanol controller it look like this. Depending on the brand, it may be based on the boost or voltage. Like AEM, you can see there is a starting at what psi it starts, and there is another gauge to select at what psi it reaches the max. So based on the controller there are different kinds. On the Snow Performance it's easier, you can set the values and you can even activate a second, and this is a sort of stage 2 controller. So you can get any controller, any brand, and this is based on the voltage. This kit here, it's based on the voltage. I have installed every kit in the market and did a little research on this. So regarding the pump, these are the older pumps. The one with the small one, it's a 6 mm nylon tubes, but the latest one, it comes with a bigger one and a higher flow rate, for a higher flow rate and pressure, because most of the time the pump will be installed in the back of the car. So there will be a long tube coming from the back all the way to the front with like more than 4 or 5 meters length. So it's better to use a bigger tube, so to reduce the pressure drop due to the bands and flow and small pipes. So nowadays most of the pumps, they use a bigger piping, higher flow and higher pressure. And most of the time the kit comes with cheap nylon tubes like this, what you see here. But we stop using this because the engine temperature, it make them brittle, and eventually this causes leaks. And we avoid using kick connectors like this because also same reason, it causes leak. So most of the time nowadays we use steel hoses, like it's a nylon inside but a steel coating outside with the AN fitting. And once it's installed, there is no leak at all, no issues at all. It's much safer now, because nowadays I use this kind of fittings and no troubles, no problems. This is an important component in the kit. Some kit have it, some kit doesn't have it. It's basically a non-return valve. It's a unidirectional flow. So as you see the arrow, the methanol comes here and goes only here. It doesn't flow from here to here. So what it does is, when you install the kit, this will be installed in the front near to the nearest location to the injector. So when the car is boosting, and if your rating is less, like let's say if the methanol injection start at 10 psi, until 10 psi the air try to push the methanol from here, but it stops here. It doesn't push the methanol all the way back to the tank. It stops there, and there will not be any boost leak because of this. If you are using a bigger nozzle, then there is a higher chance that air leaks from there and pushes the methanol back to the tank. But with this valve, it stops there. And second thing is, if the location of the injector, it's lower than the tank, then there is a higher chance that when you stop the car, the methanol will go inside the intakes, depending on the location. This so once you install it, this will be, all the issues will be solved. And the disadvantage of this one is there is a pressure inside this because of this spring. So this is how it looks as when you open it. So there is always a back pressure, constant back pressure, and the pump has to work to overcome this pressure to push the methanol to the other side. So what I prefer is a solenoid valve instead of a non-return valve. Most of the time I use a solenoid valve. What it does is whenever the pump works, this valve opens, so there is a direct flow without any resistance, and whenever the pump is not working, the solenoid closes and it's like on-off valve. Only when the pump is working there is flow, otherwise it's shut off. And this is a much safer, easier way than the other valve. So in most of the cases I use this one. And the injectors, that's the main part on any methanol injection kit, and most of the people, they're confused with the different kinds of injectors with a different rating, different size, different numbers, and every company, they have their own grading, their own sizes, their own flow rates. So many injectors in the market, and we even confuse where to locate the injector, how to install properly, which size to install. This is the things we will discuss here. So basically, any typical engine, forced induction with a turbocharger, you have a turbocharger and the charged air is compressed, it's getting hot, and they're using a air to air intercooler or air to water multi-stage intercooler, it's cooling, and here ambient air is passing through the intercooler. This is very important, and it cools the air. So once the air is compressed, the temperature will be higher than the ambient, and we are trying to cool it. So here, from the exit of intercooler all the way to the throttle body, our aim is to install the injector between the exit of intercooler and the throttle body, between this area, avoiding the unwanted sensors. And we will look into the factors which I choose to install and locate the injectors, like for example the size, where to install the injector, and how many injectors. Those things I select based on this one: installation cost, target horsepower, which means how much horsepower we are looking at, and ambient temperature, and how much boost we are running on this engine, and the location of the nozzle, where to locate, and the size. For example, if I install the injector here, I will install it a smaller size with a 100% methanol injection, because methanol, it will evaporate faster with the air. If it is a mixer, I will put it little back with the same size or bigger. As the size increases, I will put back. If we are putting a bigger nozzle, I will install somewhere here instead of installing here, because it takes some time to mix it with the air and take all the heat. Otherwise what happens is the air will not mix with the methanol, and the air will not mix properly, and there will be like a liquid methanol or water, or liquid methanol, water methanol mixture going inside the engine. This will cause misfire, definitely. So depending on the mixer, and we have stages and number of nozzle. Let's say if you have a bigger turbos and it's not a stock engine or stock internal, and you have a multiple maps with a different boost, then I will go for a multi-stage injection with the multiple injectors. We will look into it one by one. So when I say cost, there are people who does the methanol injection for a standard rate. No matter which kit, no matter which car, they have a fixed price, and that doesn't apply for me. For example, on this C63, if the customer is willing to pay and get a good result, if let's say the car have upgraded turbos, then the best location is after the intercooler, and to do the installation we need to open a lots of things on this particular car. So if the customer is not willing to pay, just I will install the injector on the outlet of turbo. There is two pipe going to the intercooler, like both side. Under this pipe there is a exit pipe going to the intercooler. So I use a bigger injector, like 2 times bigger, and install it there. It's easier. Let's say this is a MG engine, and you can see the intercooler is right here. So if you want to install it in a proper way, I used to install the injector on here immediately after the intercooler on both sides. 2 injectors with a medium size, not higher, for a normal use. If it is upgraded turbo, if it is pure methanol, I will go for a bigger one on the down to get a more cool, because here in Qatar the temperature is higher. During the summer it will be like 55, 60 or even 70 to 80 degrees on the charge air. Ambient is like 45, 50, like maximum is 50. But the best location is here. If it is a water and methanol mixture, then I will be installing it somewhere here with a bigger size, so that it will have enough time to mix while it passes through the intercooler. And if it is upgraded turbo, definitely I will do a multi-stage with like 2 after the intercooler, 2 before the intercooler, with various sizes. There are lots of factors which are affecting that. Now let's see this is M5 F10, and here you can see the charge pipe. And most of the cases people you buy the charge pipe with a hole for the injector. There will be a threaded hole, and most of the time people prefer that. The reason is, if they want to put it back to stock, they just need to install the charge pipe, nothing else. It's easier, but it's not like, if you want to install the injector right here, I will be installing a bigger one, like 2 times bigger than the one I installed after the intercooler. So this one, let's move on to the next, the target horsepower, temperature, boost. So let's see, this is a snow performance chart to select the horsepower and the nozzle. One second, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm back. Okay, so this chart, it says that you can see the horsepower. You can see the horsepower, and for the natural aspirated cars, which the nozzle is recommended by them, and you can see they have 60, 100, 175. There are different nozzles. That's a flow rate, like per minute. So based on the application, they already have a chart, and they specifically say this is a 50-50 mixer, and there are lots of other factors which affect the nozzle, the size, location, etc., etc. So now let's move on to the next one. On a 5.5 liter engine, normally I install the injector immediately after the throttle. It's easy access, and for a stock turbos with the 17-18 psi, it works better without any issues. And I tried it few more time, like I tried it so many cars, there's no issues, everything goes cool. But this is only for stock turbos. This is the setup on a M3 M4. So with the normal turbo, stage 2, stage 3 tune, I normally install the injector, a bigger one here or a smaller one before the throttle body on the charge pipe. And this was done in 2005, no, 2015, 16, those days. And nowadays there is charge pipe with injector ports. Before it was not there, and I was using it on the stock one. So based on the target horsepower, the temperature, how much temperature you want to drop, this depends on the ambient temperature, and how much boost you want to put it on the car. These are the factors, because more boost, there is more temperature, we need more cooling. These are the factors which make, like, I choose to select the size, the location, stuff like that. So this one, it's on a M5 F10, and that's the intercooler. I have to take off the intercooler to install this. That's the injector, and this was done in 2015. And this is done in 2016. You can see there is a difference because the fitting I have changed it. This made me a leak, so I upgraded the fitting with a better one, and I used to give a lifetime warranty, no leak. If there is a leak, I do it free. And see, that's a new fittings, because when there is a problem, I study the problem, I find out the reason for the problem, and I rectify it, make sure it doesn't happen again. Okay, now let's look into the stages. Okay, so this is a highly upgraded engine, and I use a multi-stage injection. It has a two-stage injection with a dual pump, and what you see is the injector on the charge pipe, and it has injector on the intercooler as well, both sides. So like, let's say at a 22 psi, this injector, the smaller one, it will get activated and it will start working, and then when it reaches 24 and above, I activate this one. And this is a bigger injector, like 2 times bigger than this, and this is required to cool this engine for that kind of horsepower. So basically the location I prefer between intercooler and throttle body, as I told you before. And there are lots of factors which makes me decide. And this is 5.5 liter engine from Mercedes, one of the best engine. You can get a lot horsepower from this car if you do a proper modification, because this car from the factory, it doesn't have a blow-off valve. It is meant to work in a 14 psi boost, which is 1 bar. So it doesn't need a blow-off valve. And if you see the location of intercooler, it's right in the middle of the V, where the heat is more. Once you start the car and drive it, within 1 hour, the intercooler itself will have the same heat as the engine block. So on normal stage 2 methanol application, I install the injector here, which I show you the photos. But once you upgrade the turbo and try to increase the boost like a 17 or above or 20, then the injector in here is not enough. We need to install a injector right here on the charge, like a bigger one, to cool the when I say bigger one, sometimes I use 4 times bigger than the one I use here to cool down the intercooler. And I used to take this off the whole intake and do a dual layer thermal wrapping on the intercooler to protect the intercooler from heat. it's because of the bad location. And a blow valve, it's extra. We need to install it on the both side or a single one in the middle, depending on the model you are working with. If you are going to boost this beyond 20 or 22, 24, 26, no worries, because this car, it's a pretty good. It's a 5.5 liter 800 on wheel, not a problem. The gearbox is, it's pretty good, and it can handle more than 1000 Newton meter of torque. I have pushed it with like a 1500 Newton meter without any issue. So basically you need a better cooling. I use 4 nozzle for upgraded turbos, and the cooler, the water circulation, I reroute the cooler, and I used to install a dedicated cooler for this car, like to cool the intercooler, because the stock car, it is linked between the coolant. It has a separate cooler for intercooler and the gearbox. So normally I separate the gearbox and I put a dedicated cooler for this one, the dedicated cooling circulation for the intercooler. So let's see how the injector. Okay, so let's see. This is the charge pipe and there is 2 nozzle connected. I will show you how the injection takes place. If you look here, see, that's a bigger nozzle, that's why. And you can see there is atomized water coming out. At the same time you can see the liquid. This is because I just spray the injector without the airflow. So when there is more airflow, this water should not be there. All the methanol, it should mix with air. This is the idea. If it is not mixing with air, if there is a liquid form, it means the car will misfire. And before it reaches the injector, I mean the intake, all the liquid must be evaporated. And if there is a liquid, it means you put the injectors too close to the intakes, which is a bad idea. Normally this is I use it for testing and checking to make sure the atomization is there. And I will show you some videos of the races. We installed that's M3, that M5, we tuned it. This is M3 again. This the M5 with the Hellcat. These are some videos, and that's on the Porsche. Normally I install here if it is a smaller application, so it doesn't mess up with the sensor. And if there is a bigger horsepower, upgraded turbos, and I will start the injector from here, a bigger one, and use a small one here. So this is how I install the methanol injectors on different cars. And another thing on this one, I just forgot to mention, there is a temperature sensor on the intercooler, and whenever the car reaches a higher temperature on the charge air, it will pull out the timing, no matter what you do. So basically on this specific engine, you need to cool the intercooler itself and the charge air if you want to boost it, if you want to get good horsepower out of this engine. Otherwise what happens is, so first 2, 3, 4 runs the car makes awesome power, and after that, as the engine get hot, it loses all the power. This is what I have noticed on this specific engine. On every engine there is lots of good things, there are lots of bad things, but end of the day it's a trial and error method. But I hope this guide helped you to find an location for your car and size, and good luck for installation. And if you have any doubts, feel free to call me or contact me so that I can help you on the installation. And wait for the next video. On the next one, I will be installing the issues with the methanol injection, the problems I have faced with the methanol injection kit, and the problems with the injection itself. I will explain it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like my video. Thank you.